Recording in progress.
Connect to audio. Good afternoon, Ms. McDaniel. How are you doing today?
I'm well. Can you hear me? I'm well. Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry. Sometimes with the Zoom, we find that it just does not connect when it needs to. But yes, we can hear you. So thank you so much for joining us. We are the Pre-Admission Safety Review Committee. My name is Kristen Holzman. You and I have been emailing back and forth a little bit. I want to let you know that we do record these meetings just so it goes in the file. It just becomes part of that. So I will have all the committee members introduce themselves right now. That way you know who is on the call with you. Like I said, my name is Kristen Holzman. I am the program specialist for our threat assessment and management office.
Okay. Can you also give me your qualifications with regards to your academia and licensure, please? If that's applicable.
Sure. So I chair the pre-admission. So the pre-admission safety committee falls under my office, which is the threat assessment and management office. So the committee falls under our office, and part of my role on campus as the program specialist is to chair the committee. So that is my specific role that falls under my job description, I guess you could say.
Okay. And any licensure, any applicable licensure?
No, I'll just say no.
Okay.
So I'll jump in. My name is Isabel Olele, and I'm an associate general counsel for the university. I work in the Office of Legal Affairs.
Yes.
And all the members of this committee were selected from departments that the university thought should have input on making this decision. So I don't know that licensure is necessarily relevant at this point to why we're a part of this committee. We're all here because we want to make sure that we're being thoughtful and fair in how we approach this process.
Okay, duly noted. I'm a lawyer as well, just so you're aware. So it is relevant with regards to licensure because my behavior is in question as it relates to the criminal background check. So licensure as it relates to behavioral analysis or psychology or any of the like, those are the things that I'm seeking to find out. And it's a pretty straightforward question. If you have applicable licensure, please share. And if you do not, then that information then is also equally straightforward. And that's it.
Hi Tigress, I'm Barb Cedar. I'm from the Office of Undergraduate Admissions, and there is no licensure to work in undergraduate admissions.
Thank you.
Hi Tigress, I'm Alan Wilson. I'm a police sergeant here at UNC Charlotte's campus, please.
Thank you. And no licensure aside from your law enforcement studies?
I am a certified police officer here in the state of North Carolina.
Duly noted. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ms. McDaniel. My name is Colin Ashley. I serve as an assistant director in the Office of Student Accountability and Conflict Resolution. There's no formal licensure in order to work in student conduct, but I do have a master's degree as well as an undergraduate degree. We wanted to make a difference in that, make that it's synonymous, but similar to Barb, there's no formal licensure in order to work in my line of work.
And your academia is in psychology?
Yeah, my bachelor's is in science and environmental science and health sciences, and my master's is in education with a higher ed specialty, yes.
Okay, so no psychology. Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep.
Hey, good afternoon, Tigress. I'm Jonathan Harris, and I'm also an attorney in the Office of Legal Affairs. New to the team, just, observing and, sort of learning as much as I can about the process. So, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. I'm not licensed yet. I'm a new lawyer, but I'm very apt.
All right, so that's everyone that is, I think everyone went. I'm looking at the screen, sometimes people hide. So the purpose of our committee is to assess any threats to the campus, the community, property, and resources. So in order for us to make any recommendations about an applicant, we review any application materials that you submitted when you applied to the graduate school. They just send everything over to myself in my office. And then based on what we review, which is that criminal background check as well as anything else you submitted, we review it, and then if need be, we reach out to the applicants to offer them a chance to meet with us if we just want to hear from you, answer any questions you may have, ask questions that we may have, and things like that. So before you get a chance to kind of introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you. You do know that we received a criminal background check that shared some things about identity, fraud, theft, back, I believe it was in 2006. You can correct me if that date is wrong, but I believe that was the date that was on the CBC that we received. We also had information about a potential suspension from North Carolina A&T that was on the application that you provided. And so that is some of the information that we had received from the graduate school for the information that you had provided to us. So if you would like to go ahead and introduce yourself to the committee and then share at this time any additional context that we may need to know based on what you know that we've received.
Okay, so I don't believe that there's any additional context that I need to explain, except I've provided you with an email. Did you provide this committee with the emails that I sent to you in the last few days?
Yes, the committee is aware of
Okay.
It goes in your files. So
Yeah, so it
yes,
goes into okay, yep. So it goes into great detail. So there should be no question regarding my character or behavior in that regard. Actually, it should be quite oppositely. Is normally how I am deemed by my peers and those that I've mentored or had an impact in their lives. With regards to suspension is a bit different than dismissal. The program was dissolved, and then I was left for almost 4 years. So I am as apt as I have presented in my application, even more so than what can be depicted in black and white. I began the program January 2014, and I had by October 2015, I had completed all of my coursework for the PhD program, which was Energy and Environmental Systems and Economics, and had passed not only my preliminary exam, but my qualifying exam. So I was a PhD candidate since October 2015. I dealt with the unfortunate politics and unfortunate ineptitude of my department, which ultimately ended with many complaints, not only by myself, but other students against Dr. Schimmel, Dr. Keith Schimmel, and all this information can be very easily verified. And if you need any documentation, I can provide the same. And he was actually removed from his position as chair, and that left me years of effectually hurry up and wait to get a new advisor, because I had advisors that had retired during the course of this time frame from October 2015 until what was it? I want to say it was December. I'm not looking at my book right now, but I'm looking at some notes, but not that particular note. And I believe that the dissolution of the program actually is the catalyst for my dismissal from the program during this meeting. And it was, as you can imagine, it was very, very disheartening, very frustrating. And your average person, I even had a lot of my colleagues and my professor, my advisor, they were just, let me see if I can remember some of the words they used about me. They were impressed with my fortitude over that time frame, to have been a candidate for that time frame and had been full into my dissertation. I had already sent out my surveys. I had received the responses. I was well into preparing or compiling my dissertation and analyzing my research. And my advisor, Dr. Osai Yoboa, was equally disheartened and frustrated. He filed complaints on my behalf as it relates to just getting me out the door. There was no other step but my final defense. But unfortunate for me, I experienced what I experienced. And again, like I said, there's a great deal of documentation in that same regard. But I remained colloquially sophisticated and resolved to just handle things administratively, and that's exactly what occurred. And like I said, the ultimate result that not only impacted me, but other students in the EES program is that it was completely dissolved. So, and that effectually dismissed us. I did fight, quote unquote, through the administrative appeal process just to see if there was any way, because I was not going to not exhaust all of my options, especially being in the legal capacity, what good lawyer would. And I sought an appeal, and it was effectually futile because, again, I was proposing what wasn't already written into policy, if you will. Does that make any sense? Just to, again, so that I could just wrap up my studies, because as you can imagine, I did pay quite a bit in tuition. There were issues with available funding on campus, because the PhD program, I'm not sure if you all are familiar, Auntie's campus is brand new. So when I came in 2014, it was brand spanking new. I was a part of the first inception. So it was a huge failure on the part of North Carolina A&T State University. They failed quite a bit of students in that program. And the last, Janora Waterman, Dr. Janora Waterman was the interim dean after Keith Schimmel left. And actually, she and I had a wonderful rapport, and the decision was still, because of the kind of straightforward nature of it, is that this program is being dissolved and you have no advisor. You, at this point, you've got, I think at that juncture, I had maybe 2 remaining dissertation committee members because of someone either retiring or no longer available. Someone was on medical leave. It was just not the best of situations, but due to the fact that I am a scientist first and a lawyer, anyone who understands those two fields, you're either going to be succumb to anxiety, or you're going to rise above and remain unrivaledly emotionally intelligent, and that's what I am.
Thank you for sharing that information. So I'll open it up to the committee now. If anyone has any questions, this would be the time to ask.
Ms. McDaniel, I do have one clarifying question for you, and I think I might have missed it, so I apologize on that. What was the formal name of you said it was a PhD program at NC A&T. What was the name of the program that you said formally dissolved?
Yep, energy, energy and environmental systems. And my track, because my entire background is interdisciplinary, and so my track was energy and environmental systems and economics. That program, as I stated, was completely dissolved, and again, it's easily verifiable. They have a new program. They actually offer or suggested, so that I would, if I say offer, because there was no guarantee. You still go through all the procedures, just like you would, like I'm doing now with application procedures. But they had offered that I reapply to the new program. And I was I'm not confident. I've wasted so much time and so much money. And my advisor was not under that same department, because they restructured the academic programs and what school they would be under. And so it just would have been so much more work. And actually, my advisor at the time, Dr. Osai Yerboa, and again, you can speak directly with him. He's very easily accessible, and I can provide his contact information. He actually suggested, along with my mentors, that I just find another school. And it is, again, it was a terrible situation to have endured. I'm definitely completely undeserving of what I experienced, but what can I do at the end of the day? I have, I have my administrative complaints with regards to Keith Schimmel, and evidently the university concurred in some regard. Of course, you all are aware that they can't disclose certain things with regards to, his employment. But the fact that he was removed from his chair position, and then later, and I would say it was within, because we received a rather sudden email, if you will, unexpected email some 2-3 months later that he was leaving the university. So.
Yeah, thank you for that insight. One more quick question for you. On your application materials, it says that you were at A&T from January of 2014 to December of 2021. I just wanted to confirm and make sure I didn't make an inference here. Was December of 2021 when the program formally dissolved, as in it being obsolete, or was that the time that you concluded your time as like an enrolled active student at A&T?
No,
I just wanted to confirm the date of the program dissolved.
So herein lies the irony, and again, we're talking about really huge levels of mismanagement. During one of the meetings with Dr. Janora Waterman during this time in December, so there were like several meetings in December, and I can provide that documentation if you need after the fact. In that month of December, I received notice that the program was being dissolved in one of those meetings with Dr. Janora Waterman, who had taken on the interim position, because once I learned, we received, just regular correspondence from the university acknowledging the fact that she had now been placed in that interim position. So immediately, considering the predicament that I was in, I reached out to her. And when I say predicament, I'm talking about not subject to dismissal. The predicament I was in was, I'm ready to defend. How do we push this ahead? How do we, because of course, I believe some of you would be aware, a chair actually has to sign off on the changes of your dissertation committee. So I was already in that stage of, I had reached out to, and when I say everybody on campus that would be eligible to sit as a committee member, and I have all that documentation. I reached out to everyone. So during this period, and I also then reached out to Dr. Waterman to say, can we please meet? I would like to discuss with you what I've been experiencing so that I can go ahead and, get this on track so that we can move forward. And that's when she disclosed that the program was being dissolved. And I was completely blindsided, as were other students. So, and then the next meeting, during this meeting that I'm referring to, she then told me that I was being considered for dismissal on the basis of that. And of course, when a student first hears that they're being considered for dismissal, you think that it's punitive, right? There must be something I've done. And so that was my biggest concern. And we had a very extensive meeting in that regard. And she just said, we'll have the next meeting. We'll go through all the administrative steps. And she actually, ironically enough, she said, well, you're a lawyer, so you should be able to defend yourself very well. And the irony is that there was no real viable defense, because what do I stay in? I can't stay in a program that is dissolved. And so then the dismissal was there. And it's like, you don't have an advisor, you don't have a full committee. I had my advisor. You don't have a full committee. No, I didn't have my advisor at the time. You don't have an advisor, you don't have a full committee, you have 2 committee members left. We don't see how this is going to work out. It's better that we dismiss you because of this, and then you have the opportunity to then apply to the program that replaces it. And I thought that was the most inappropriate thing that I've heard in quite some time. And I've heard quite a bit of inappropriate things in the field of law.
Thank you for that additional insight. I really appreciate it.
Yes. And so as it relates to the identity theft, please feel free to ask questions, but you misunderstand. I'm not sure if you're, now, according to Kristen, you all have all the documentation. So I don't want to leave this meeting without you not having questions in that regard. Keep in mind, this was in 2006. And I provided to you where I changed my legal name, and that has been unduly scrutinized some 20 years later almost. Actually, just about, I'm at the 20-year mark, because my birth name was changed, and that had absolutely nothing to do with the wrongful criminal conviction in 2006. I changed my name prior to the wrongful conviction in 2006 to honor my father. My birth name is Tasha Renee McDougal. I love my birth name. I've actually had people very inappropriately, like make inferences, and try to relate those two matters as somehow being on the lam. I like to joke and tell people I don't like to run. I'm very athletic. I don't like to run. I don't like to run my mouth. I don't like to run game. I don't like to give people the run around. So the point I'm making is, like, I'm not on the lam. I have been a very straightforward, very consistent and dependable person in my communities, and you can't be inconsistent in law school. You can't be inconsistent in the arenas that I've been in and have achieved and had my degrees conferred with being oppositely inclined or criminally inclined. It just doesn't make any sense. But my father called me Tigress. It's pretty straightforward. It actually is on the paperwork in the courts, and it shows. My father passed away in 2002. I was in law school at that time at North Carolina Central University. And I thought I could continue on because my father was the one who wanted me to go to law school. And then I was in a car accident shortly thereafter, and I had a multi-fracture to my pelvis and had to learn to walk again. And and this tells you about my fortitude and my character, I still continued believing that I could do it. And went through my first year of law school and was speaking with one of my advisor professors, and I was commuting back and forth. It was a very interesting time, and they just told me, you don't have to like push yourself this much. You can take time. It's okay. And so I went ahead and withdrew from law school at that time. But I'm just giving you this information so that you understand the kind of like what that's about. Me honoring my father at a point that was very, very pressing. My mother went back to her maiden name after he passed away, and I felt disconnected. And McDaniel is my mother's maiden name, if you haven't drawn that conclusion based on my foregoing statement. Tigress, of course, is the name that he called me. I'm of Haitian descent. My dad fought for naming me Tigress at birth, and my mom wasn't having it. So I became Tasha. She won. But the irony is that some years later at a Mother's Day dinner, she said that my father was right the whole time. The irony, throughout high school, most people called me or Tigress, and it just carried over. And even in my community work, for which there are articles in the Greensboro paper for the things that I've done community-wise, and poetry and the performing arts, and they would refer to me as Tasha Tigress in quotation marks McDougal. And so after 2002, I changed my name to honor my father, and I've been Tigress McDaniel ever since. But there's in no way, shape, or form I don't deny my birth name. I can't use it, for obvious reasons. But I don't deny it at all. It's a part of my story, and I love my birth name. I think my birth name is just as beautiful as my current name, if not, more. And with regards to the conviction itself, what I'm referencing is you have the birth certificate in the way that this the state actually revises it. And I'll be honest with you, when I first saw the revision of the birth certificate with just a strike through, I was like, okay, people are going to think that I'm a complete, this just looks like a fraud on its face, but that's how they do it, and you can verify that through the register. And I'm trying to think what else is relevant in that regard before you have any other questions. I've already mentioned that I actually was a victim of identity theft, and you have the documentation that shows that I received a new social security number in 2004 after they concluded their investigation. And equally at that time, I thought, so you can imagine this is such a wild time in my life between 2002 and 2004, because I got the new social security number in 2004, and this is prior to the conviction. And I believe that because I sued the Louisville, Kentucky Police Department for many civil rights violations, that unfortunate for me as a Black woman, I dealt with quite a bit of racial discrimination during that time frame. It was brought to my attention after they cleared my name, quote unquote, in Louisville, Kentucky, that my name had been used. Again, remember, I'm the victim of identity theft, that my name had been used in North Carolina. And I was extradited to, voluntarily, extradited to North Carolina. At which time I was brought to an arraignment hearing, and it was a Caucasian male judge in Concord, North Carolina. And I requested to have time to retain an attorney. He denied that, and we know that that is constitutionally violated. And he set the trial for the end of that week. I returned, thankfully. He had no knowledge that I was had been in law school or was inclined. I wasn't a complete layperson. That my information had been used to obtain property by false pretenses, upwards to about 30 different charges. This is part of the story that nobody hears unless they actually inquire about. And so if you just look at the paper and you see the 3 charges, like, oh wow, well no, it was more than 30 charges if I recall correctly. And I defended myself aptly. You're going to say, well, how was it aptly? Because you still got convicted. Well, the irony is that when you look at the record, and I am pursuing through the Innocence Project, there's an open case right now to overturn that case in Cabarrus County. And basically defending myself, 27 charges were dismissed, enumeratively, if you will, as I presented my case. And of course, they are based on the state's arguments. The evidence for one act was the evidence for the others. So the district attorney actually moved to dismiss the case against me for lack of evidence, which was appropriate. And the judge did not accept that. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this. Again, the attorneys in the room will be familiar with this, because some people think that, oh no, that can't happen. Well, it does, and it can, and it's unlawful, but it happens. And that's what happened in my case. It wasn't, there was also regarding voir dire, which again, the attorneys in the room will be familiar with that term, and that just means jury selection. I contested the jury selection as well. It was all Caucasian white men, and I was treated in a very racially discriminatory manner. And again, it's public record. The files in that case, they're public record, and it's pretty obvious. And I have had no crimes before it, no crimes after it, and it was a first offense, and there's no way that I should have ended up with an active prison term of 2 years. It was very obvious what I experienced. Sometimes America doesn't like to talk about these things, but it was my experience, and it actually has enlarged my life in some ways. You may say it may sound kind of strange, but I'm a very cheerleader-oriented type of personality. The irony is that most people associate aggression or maybe some type of negative or maybe aggressor, warrior power behind the name Tigress. My dad actually chose that name. He used to always tell me that the most noble warrior stance is love. So, and that's what I've been raised on. So I'm the complete antithesis of what people stereotypically associate with my name and my culture of Haiti. And basically, even in that prison stint, I actually had a hugely positive impact on individuals. I brought yoga to the Raleigh Correctional Center, the medium security. I assisted with advocating for individuals to learn how to read and write and to understand how to fill out the forms that were necessary just for everyday, course of activities in the prison system. So, and actually I think this is very notable as well. There were 2 individuals that were in prison, and they had been standing on their innocence for many years. They had been in prison for murder, and they were up for parole. And because of the fact that they had actually befriended me, I befriended them, and their interaction with me, 2 of them were their parole was granted, and it was a very beautiful story. And I'm actually kind of moved right now, even reminding myself of it. Because
thank you. I'm so sorry to cut you off.
Yes.
But I think we are starting to run over time.
Oh.
And so I wanted to, Kristen, I know you're generally the one who leads. I did have a question really quick. Have you been involved in any other lawsuits other than what we've discussed so far in the meeting?
What do you mean? What lawsuits?
No, I'm just asking.
And I would, so again, I understand this is 20 to 30 minutes long, but as an attorney, you understand that, so the biggest issue here, and this is what I brought up to Kristen, is the scope of what you intend to do with this meeting, because it is not lawfully sound if what you're seeking based on your question is what you're seeking, because that doesn't give me proper hearing rights. And I've already inquired about directly to Kristen, and I don't know if you all have seen this email. I inquired about getting a full list of effectually all of the points of contention that you would have. And being given a minute to discuss matters that are completely complex is wholly improper and wholly unlawful. So there's no way that I can, and I'm not going to allow myself to be subjected to that. And it wouldn't make any sense because I'm a lawyer. So why would I allow myself to be subjected to unlawful procedure as it relates to inquiry? Even if the inquiry is valid, I should still have ample time to not only prepare for it, but to defend myself against it. So,
sure.
So when you say lawsuits, I'm a lawyer. So yes, I've had lawsuits. I've had lawsuits where I've sued for, I'm also a business owner. And I've been a business owner since since 1999. So I've had contracts with my clients who have not paid, and I have taken them to court through small claims actions. I have had a lawsuit for being the victim of a hit and run, and I have a judgment for $15,000 in damages. So that should be completely and is completely improper as it relates to consideration for an application for a PhD program, and then on the basis of whether or not I pose a threat. A lawsuit, me filing a lawsuit and being a physical threat to the university they cannot be compared as what you're implying by your line of questioning. And you know that's not proper at all.
Sure. Well, I appreciate your response.
Mm-hmm.
Kristen, I don't know if we need to end now or how you'd like to proceed.
Yep, so I'll just go ahead and answer your question about why I never responded to your request to give you the questions. A lot of times in these, because it is a valid question, a lot of times in these committee meetings, we don't know the questions we're going to ask until we hear the information from you. So we give you the opportunity to speak about what we've been given the information on, but a lot of times, almost all the time, the questions that are asked are from questions we think of because of things you have stated. So there isn't like a set stage of, oh, we're gonna ask these 5 questions and we need these 5 things. So that's why I did not respond, is because I don't ever really know what questions the committee members are going to want to ask, because it just depends on the information that you share with us. But I very much appreciate your time with us today. I will be reaching out to the graduate school to give our decision today, because I know you are waiting on a decision. And as you know, as I shared in the email to you earlier this week, we are just a part of their decision process. So once the decision is made from the graduate school, we are not notified. So any questions regarding admissions or anything, that will have to go right back to the graduate school, because they do not notify us after I email them today. That's kind of it on our end. So if you're trying to get questions or answers about that, the graduate school would be your contact.
If I may, and I know you're going to close this, it won't take me more than a minute to say this. It's the same thing that I share with you, and I see the demeanor of some of the individuals. I really, and at no time have I ever been the type person, I'm a very spiritual person as well. At no time when I feel that I can make a positive impact am I timid in sharing my voice. Whereas I completely appreciate and completely understand the necessity in vetting all students as it relates to being a potential threat to the university, especially considering what has happened on the campus. Even though I've been a community leader who's advocated against gun violence and the like, the way that you all have positioned this meeting and everything that you have it predicated upon is not administratively proper, and it's not lawfully proper, because it entails and that's why I asked about your licensure. It entails an issue, and it presents not only a legal issue, but none of you respectfully would be qualified to vet me on a psychological basis or behavioral basis. And so that would be inappropriate. And then there would be steps. Of course, we know there are federally, prevailing laws that dictate the steps to actually achieve such a diagnosis, and then draw a decision therefrom. And then on the basis of, like what the young attorney was saying about other lawsuits, it's just very concerning. It's actually disconcerting. It's very.
We have to get off.
Yes.
Because we're running way over, but we
Yes.
appreciated meeting with you and hearing from you. Thank you for giving us your time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and the graduate school will be in touch once they've made a decision.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. That was just absolute full of shit. That was